Hello, hello. Hi, Selah. Come on up. Say hello to everybody. Yes, 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 yes. Up and down, up and down. Selah's getting very quick at it now. So my boys have gone to college, and Selah doesn't have very many friends left. It's just you all, and
that's it.
So hey, welcome to the show. It's Thursday night.
It came around quickly this week.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to do a sort of a different show. Usually we do a quiz or something fun like that. We're going to this week, since the Paralympics are on, we're going to dive right into our favorite Paralympic sport, at least mine. I don't know if I can speak for you, Ida, but
I love it.
Wheelchair rugby. And we have a fan, or we're fans of Joe Delagrave. And we're fans of the whole team now. And so I want to show you a couple of reasons why I am. We're going to watch a really heavy interview that we did with Joe.
Yes.
And this is exclusive. Sometimes you'll hear the commentators talk about it, but as far as I know, there's no interview like this.
I don't think there is.
That exists out there other than the one you're about to see. And we've never published it. So
we decided, if not now, when would be a good time? So we'll do it now.
So I think it reflects very well on Joe, but it is talking about a really hard time with him. So we're going to do that a little bit later in the show. We're going to talk about wheelchair rugby, though, first. So maybe you're tuning in because you're a wheelchair rugby fan, too. Maybe you aren't. So we're gonna try to talk to multiple audience. But here's, let's see. Here's the wheelchair rugby team.
Yay, go.
And we say you should be a wheelchair rugby fan. And that's my opinion, and there's the team right there. There's 12 players in that picture, but there's actually 4 alternates on the team as well, and there's 9 coaches, maybe 10 coaches. I've forgotten now.
A lot of people involved in making this happen.
Yeah,
and a lot of years of hard work and sacrifice and.
Right. Our friend Joe Delagrave there on the left of your screen, furthest guy on the left in the back row, and the rest of the team, which we hope you're already familiar with, or you will become familiar with over time. So what I want to do first of all is just tell you where we are. We're in the middle of the Paralympics. What's today's date? I don't even know what day we're on.
26th.
This is August 26th. The opening ceremonies were on the 24th. And it's in Japan, so the timing is a little complex because you have opening ceremonies, and then the things begin. But it actually begins sort of the next day for us.
Right.
So anyway, it's a little bit mixed up on what day we're actually doing this. But I'm using Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time actually. And so what has happened so far in wheelchair rugby? Wheelchair rugby is one of the very first sports. Got some swimming, some ping pong, some basketball. There's a few sports going on right now, but there's a lot of them that are not going to happen. They're not going to start for a few days. And but wheelchair rugby is one of the first ones. In fact, it will be over on Sunday. That'll be the end of the very last game. Will be on Sunday. And wheelchair rugby has been a Paralympic sport since the year 2000. That's when it began. Oh, I got the. No, I don't have the big picture. I was going to say I have the big picture from the screen. And here's an interesting factoid. The United States has won a medal in wheelchair rugby in every Olympic. We have 2 golds. Those were fairly early, 2000 and 2008. We have 2 bronzes, 2004. And 2012. And we have 1 silver, which was in the last Olympics in Rio in 2016. So we have 2 golds, a silver, and 2 bronzes. And
we're hoping for another gold.
As far as I know, we're the only team that has a medal in every. I haven't looked carefully, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So that's all I got. I'm all done. I got nothing more.
Oh.
So she'll look over at Ida now and see if I just got something. We're sort of out at treats, which is a little rough. So being an American, wheelchair rugby is a fun thing because it's a big medal sport for us. Now we follow Joe Delagrave. He was on our show in 2020, and we did another show where we were talking about the Paralympics earlier this year. And actually, I was looking up the Joe Delagrave show that we did was in 2020, in January 30th of 2020. It was right before COVID. Sayla, please stop. Right. Please stop. It was right before COVID happened, and so none of us knew that it was that it was going to happen. But we were talking to him about the 2020 Olympics coming up. We were at the beginning of the year, and we didn't know it was going to get moved for a year. Right. We had all of that to do. So we actually had Joe on the show. He talked about wheelchair rugby on that show. So you can go back and look up that show if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. That show exists. You can look it up, Joe Delagrave. But we have had right now there are preliminary rounds, and there are two different groups. There's Group A and Group B. And I believe we're in Group B. But anyway, there are four of us. It's New Zealand, Great Britain, Canada, and the United States on one side. And all those are pretty good teams. And then I'm not sure I can recite the other four, but Japan and Australia, those are the two big ones. Those are the two, like, Australia won gold and continues to win often, but they won gold in 2016, where we won the silver in overtime by one. They beat us by one goal. So Australia is a big team. Japan is also a powerhouse. They have been winning recently as well. Little fun fact about the Japanese team: they have the Australian team has what's considered to be the greatest player in the world, and Japan probably has the second best player. He challenges them, and then the U.S. is more like our top players are more considered like maybe the fourth or fifth in the world. But we've got we have a number of players right that come in a line there. So we don't have the best player probably.
We have a cohesive team. They love one another, they enjoy one another, and I think that's a big part of why they win so much.
Yeah, and of that 12 that are in that picture, only 2 of them haven't been in the Olympics before. So it's a very experienced team. They're also, I think they're all older than 30. Ooh. And so they're an older, experienced team. Wheelchair rugby has a tendency to have older players. Lots of times people start off playing wheelchair basketball and then they switch to wheelchair rugby. And anyway, so the U.S. has had 2 matches, and the bottom line is spoiler alert: don't watch the next 15 minutes if you haven't seen the first 2 games, because we're going to tell you all about it.
Joel was watching it. He thinks he's watching it live because it's 35-37. And
which game?
The Canada one.
Yeah.
It's over.
Joel, we're going to spoil it for you.
Close your ears, guys. It's over.
But not first. We're going to spoil the New Zealand game, which was the first game for you. So let me just switch us over, and we're going to play some highlights from the New Zealand game. First we'll go to the final score of the New Zealand game. So we played New Zealand first, and let me see if I can get that to show up here. There it is. The New Zealand score was the United States 63 and New Zealand 35. That's a unheard of crunching.
Yes.
And the U.S. was in charge in this game from the very beginning. We were really, really strong in this game. It started off, the statistics are just crazy good. Let me just show you a couple of those statistics while we're looking at it. I can't put both of our screens up at the same time. I can only put one at a time. But you can see here that the U.S. won 63-35. But look on the left-hand side how there were no turnovers for the U.S. and there were 13 turnovers for New Zealand. And the U.S. had 10 steals. So crazy, crazy good. kind of thing. So now I want to just show you some highlights from that game. And if you haven't seen Wheelchair Rugby, it's a rough game. Yeah, Kathy says they weren't very good. And the thing is, they are pretty good. They are a pretty good team. It's just that the U.S. really made a statement there. We were expected to win. And in fact, the U.S. played a different lineup in the New Zealand game. I'm not sure if every player got in, but a large number of the players got in, and a large number. The scoring was spread around. Usually, Aoki. Chuck Aoki, which he's the fourth guy in the back row of that picture. There, the fourth guy. So Joe's first, and then there's a couple more, and Chuck Aoki's in the middle, sort of in the middle of the picture. Fourth guy from the left. He's the guy who usually scores the most, and he did score the most in that game, but not by a lot. And there were a lot of other players that were right in that. He scored, I think, 11 or 12 or 13, something like that. And there were a lot of other players that scored 10 or more goals in that game. So anyway, fun one to watch. I remember Kathy sent me a note that she was watching. And you can watch on the NBC Sports channel, but you have to have cable television to see it. There actually is no way. It's weird that there's no way to just subscribe to the Olympics.
Right.
It's a mistake, really, I think, on NBC's part. They should have had some way that you could just pay $10 and watch
all the Olympics,
watch the Olympics. But you have to have you have to have cable of some sort, and you go to that site, and it verifies that you're coming across the cable.
You do indeed have a subscription to their cable.
So anyway, so let's watch the game one recap now. Ida, you and I are going to have to talk through this because there's no sound. It's just the pictures. So here, so I'm going to actually stop it along the way, and we'll see what we can see. So here's the recap that NBC Broadcasting will comment on it as it goes. So it was USA who came out and did their warm-ups, and New Zealand. This guy, I don't know if you can see, but he's the top scorer. I can't. His name slips my mind at the moment. But there's a tear running down his cheek. He was so thrilled to be in the Olympics. This was part of the opening, where he was crying a bit. And they did a New Zealand warm up. They did
I think it's a haka or something like that.
Is that what it's called? A haka?
Yeah.
They line up across from each other, and so that's what this is. This is them doing their New Zealand chant, and the U.S. watched them while they did it. And so that guy scored a lot, and you'll see lots of good hits in this game. There's Chuck Aoki, and he was the star, and all the players. There's some real good hits here. This is one of the players that doesn't score commonly, and you can see him because he's got that basket on the front. He's a defensive player,
right?
And but he is a player that is a difference maker, because everyone in wheelchair rugby has a score, and that they get. It's an ability score, and it's between 0.5 and 3.5. It's good to know that in wheelchair rugby, the idea is to just hold onto the ball and cross the line in this little goal area. It's not the whole end zone like you would have in football. It's a smaller area, and all you have to do is get 2 of the 4 wheels on your wheelchair across. The line. There are actually 6 wheels on a wheelchair, but there's only 4 that count. There's 2 wheels that are stabilizing wheels in the back, and those are just those aren't the 4 wheels we're talking about. It's the 2 big wheels, and then the 2 wheels in the front. Those are the 4 wheels. So 2 of those wheels have to cross for it to be called a try or a score, and you get 1 point for a score. Now your team is made up of 4 players, and each player has a score themselves, a disability score, basically, with a lower number meaning that you are more affected by paralysis. And and so everyone is affected by paralysis. Everyone has limbs that are affected by paralysis. Everyone is at least paraplegic. At least their legs do not work. In other words, if you're not paraplegic, you can't participate.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing to remember about the sport when you're watching, because everyone has some sort of hand paralysis, some level of hand paralysis. So when they're catching the ball, it's not like an NFL player catching the ball. They're catching the ball with less ability to grasp, less ability to move their hands and close their hands. So anyway, so this guy is a one. He's highly affected. His shoulders, his torso, his arms, his hands are all at least moderately affected by his paralysis. So he's actually quite a player on the team. I think his name is. Let me bring him up. Yeah, I think this is Chad Kahn, but I'm not positive of that. It's one of two players, but Chad Kahn is a classification 1. Let me just find the other guy who it possibly could be. I thought his name was also a C, but it's not. But these guys are difference makers, because the defensive players are like in football. They're screening the higher players. They're getting in the way so that the other guys can score typically. But when they cover Chuck Aoki and some of our other players that have a higher classification, Chuck Aoki, for instance, is a 3.0 classification. I think it could also be Jeff Butler. I'm not sure which of those two this is, but I'm pretty sure it's Chad Kohn, Kohn, and so he's a guy to watch on the court. He'll make a difference for you. If it's somebody other than Chad, I'm very sorry to whoever that person is that I've missed. But I'm pretty sure I've got the right person there, a difference maker on the team. But you can see that he's got the basket in front of his wheels, which makes it harder for him to pivot.
Right.
But it also makes his wheelchair a little bit bigger and easier to get in the way.
Like he could knock somebody off.
He's
their
more
wheelchair.
of a defensive player, and so he's setting screens. He's interrupting the other team's offense. Anyway, that was a long conversation about one guy. So there he goes, backing in. He got hit, and he's backing in. There. Let's just keep rolling through. The U.S. was out in force. There's nobody in the audience, right?
It's a shame there's nobody in the audience. And, there's very few people.
And so those were like team. Those were like the trainers and the dietitian and people like that. I don't even think that spouses are able to be there, or children. So
there were some little Japanese children in the audience.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. Actually, they'll show that. Here's another score. This is number 33. And his name is begins with an H. No, it doesn't begin with an H. Or I have him not in alphabetical order. Scaturo. Adam Scaturo really is his name. He's a classification 1.5. He's from Lakewood, Colorado. He's 42 years old. And he's scoring here, but it's exciting because he's one of the guys who this is his first Olympic. Oh. And so
at 42 years old,
they're
his first
showing
Olympics.
So they're showing
That's
him.
Pretty cool.
They're showing him scoring his goal there. And then here's the New Zealand stealing and a couple of other goals. There's
Chuck.
Chuck just gone overboard. That was the captain there. There's the students. I'm not sure who they were or why they were there. That was never explained. They just showed them. And then the bench coach, who basically keeps track of the wheelchairs and is doing some repairs and things like that. This is him, and he's part of the energizing warm up of the U.S.
He spikes the ball.
Everybody has their own little traditions, and that was Chuck at the very end there. I do want to mention that Chuck was the was the flag bearer for the U.S. team. So that was quite an exciting thing that the rugby team had one of the two flag. There's two flag bearers for Paralympic teams, and Chuck was one of them.
Really happy
and
for
so
him.
he's sort of the face of the organization. In fact, if you haven't watched, you have Chuck Aoki. He's usually going to score the most. Part of that's because he has a qualification 3.0, so he just has the ball more. He can maneuver more. He's a little bit quicker, that sort of thing. The next guy is a guy named Wheeler, who's going to probably score the second most amount of goals, or at least what you would expect. And then the third guy is our buddy Joe Delagrave. So in order of likely scorers, you got Aoki and Wheeler and Delagrave. Those are the guys who are the go-to scorers. They're pretty much going to score in the 10 or more range every game. In fact, Joe scored 7 goals in both games, I do believe.
That was USA versus New Zealand.
Yeah, so that was the USA versus New Zealand, where it was a big trouncing, and everybody was very pleased with that result, 63-35. Wow. There have been another team played against New Zealand, and they I believe it was Britain, who's the only team we haven't played yet, and they didn't win by quite as much. So we have actually a standings advantage because we beat them by more than Britain did. We haven't played Britain yet. They're our last game to play. So that's the results of the first game. We wanted to go through that with you. So Henry's sending messages. Is that what's going on? Henry, we can't look at we don't have we're not technical multitasking enough to be able to do both those at the same time.
Although I did see you sent it. So I'll check it. I'll read it later.
You bet. We'll take a look at it after the show. We can't look during the show. We've got too many balls up in the air.
Really?
Just while I'm at it, would it be okay if I just read? Here's what the article in the US Wheelchair Rugby USA Wheelchair Rugby website, which is a good website.
Yes.
usawr.org is a good place to get news. If you want to go look, it stays up on even the Paralympics, and it gives a little summary. But here's what they said about Tokyo. After 17 months with no competition. So that's the first thing that I want you to remember is when we talked to Joe in January of 2020, that they played in February. He was on his way to a tournament. That was the last tournament they played until these games. Actually, the last game they played, by the way, was Britain. It will be the game that they haven't played yet. They're going to play tonight at 10:30 Eastern time. So after this show, that's what we're warming you up for.
That's right. You got to go out and watch it.
But spoiler alert, it doesn't matter. So here's what it says. They got back into action against New Zealand, and the top scorers were Chuck Aoki with 14 and Josh Wheeler with 13. Remember I said Chuck Aoki and Josh, those are the top scorers. There were a bunch of other ones, though. U.S. had a lead from the very beginning, 13-6 at the end of the first quarter. They just kept ahead almost by twice the score the whole way through.
That's a lot to be ahead.
Here's a quote from co-captain Joe Delagrave.
Let's hear what Joe had to
Getting
say.
the start for the USA was a journey 9 years in the making for Joe. That's what our show's going to be about tonight. Getting the start today was huge for me, said Delagrave. Coach told us before warm-ups, and it meant so much to me and was symbolic of my last 9 years and the focus I've had. Some of the guys came and gave me a hug. They knew, too, this was such a special moment for me. Today, in general, was emotional, coming off last night with Chuck as the flag bearer. We're all so proud and happy to be here. It was sort of the perfect first game for the U.S. because the opening ceremony was only 12 hours earlier, and it was at night, and this game was the next day. And so I'm sure there was all sorts of, I'm sure they had trouble sleeping, and and they hadn't played for 17 months. And so all the teams are in that situation, though. So anyway, the coach, Coach James Gumbert, said his team is ready. I think the boys are fired up for the rivalry game against Canada. That's what
There's
Joel's
no
watching
doubt.
now, and what we're going to go over here shortly.
Yes.
And after this initial game under our belts, the guys should feel in sync and prepared. I expect us to come out and play a great match against Canada, he said. So that's it. USA is 28-3 in Paralympic competition. They've only lost 3 times. So that's pretty yeah.
Odds, yeah.
And so
they're not taking anything for granted. They're out there working hard.
Yeah, they're ready to go at it. So that's the end of that. That's the end of that summary. That's probably the longest summary you're going to find anywhere on the internet of the pair. We're the only one reporting.
We don't know how to not talk, so whatever.
Yeah, on our team.
Okay, well.
All right. So let's move on to the next game. Do a recap of the next game. And Joel, this is your moment for spoiler alerts. I'm about to put in the score of the Canada United States game, which was an exciting game.
It was a great game.
But here it is. The score was that. There's our buddy Joe, looking over his shoulder, worried that somebody's going to come up and hit him. I think
you never know in this game.
The United States won 58-54. In fact, they were behind at the end of the first half by 1 goal and by 1 try, and that was a surprise. I think it was interesting because the U.S. played the whole game as if they were ahead. They were delaying, and it just seemed like they were very confident they were going to win. But I was worried about it because Canada was too close for comfort for me. But in the end, they won by 4, and they won. In the last few minutes, Canada had worn down. The bottom line is that Canada has a couple of really good players, and that's about what they have.
Well, and that's where wheelchair rugby originated, was in Canada.
Right, and there's a rivalry between the U.S. and Canada, so this was an exciting game. But the Canadians wore down as the game went on. The U.S. has a very deep team and has lots of different lineups. And the U.S. has a really good team in which you can play. They sometimes call it high-low, where they'll play people with very high capability scores and a couple with very high and a couple with very low, and they'll match them. But they can also sort of spread it and have a more. And the U.S. can put either kind of team out there, so we can sort of face up against anybody. We've got people to match. Anyway, so that's the result of the Canadian. Let's watch some replays, shall we? Walk through a few replays for you. Here it is. Canada. And there's Joe. Joe is the passionate.
He is passionate. He's
the passionate guy driving the team, and so you'll always see lots of energy coming from him. When he hits in between, you can tell he's that kind of a co-leader that really drives the energy. The same tradition of the ball. There's the little mascot flying up in the air there, and there's Joe on the tip-off of the game, easily taking the tip-off to his team. And there's that number 33 there, Wydell, I think his name is the top Canadian player, and he scored 31 goals.
That's amazing.
In this game. There you see him with Chuck Aoki, who scored 30. They played back and forth, one-on-one. They were pushing against each other. Watch some of these hits. There's some great hits going on. Look at that. There's Joe smashing somebody from Canada really good, and Joe was excited about it. There's Joe. There's a lot of good plays of Joe in this game. He had an extraordinary game, not in terms of scoring, but in terms of the whole around defense, offense. He did a lot. He had a lot of assists. And there's Chuck Aoki scoring, and there's the score. Joe's the one who threw this ball right here that you're looking at, and Aoki. This was right with just 2 seconds left at the end of the quarter. And look at him, he catches it, and then he just backs his way in after that. Everybody was thrilled about it. And there's Wheeler, the other guy who scores a good bit. And there's the bench coach. This time they've got headgear somewhere. They've got this headgear to show off. So that was that game. And there's the score again, 58-54. Not as clean a game as the first game. They had 5 offensive fouls, 11 defensive fouls, and 5 turnovers. So they played very aggressively in this game. But they did get 5 steals. So they played a real strong defensive game. They went real hard and real aggressive at Canada, and it worked. So that's the Canadian.
Yeah.
The Canadian game.
What I think is interesting is they started out making a point of saying it's going to be hard to tell these two teams apart, Canada and the United States, because Canada had black shirts on and the United States had on navy blue shirts with white letters on the back. And then after the half, they changed shirts.
The USA came out in white shirts. I think the USA was probably the home team and they forgot.
That could be.
Yeah,
we'll have to ask Joe when we see him in person. Explain this to us.
But they switched at halftime. It's hard to tell the teams apart because the only difference was the color of the numbers. One team had white. The US had white numbers, and but in the second half you could tell the difference. I didn't even notice that. I watched the game a few times and never even noticed it. Just like my shirt last week.
Yeah. See, you were testing us. They were testing you.
That was Joe getting back.
That's right.
Joe getting back. Every player really has quite an interesting role. I only have talked about a few players on the U.S., but I could go right down through the lineup and tell you about how important every player is. There's players on the U.S. who come off the bench who could start on any team except for the U.S., and the U.S. is a really deep team with some really great players. And like I was saying earlier, these defensive players make a big difference in the game. So anyway, the bottom line is 2 games in, the U.S. has won 2. This is in the preliminaries. They only have 1 game left, and the top 2 of the 4 move on to the medals round. So really, it's just a matter of seeding. The U.S. has guaranteed they're moving on to the medals round,
right,
even if they would lose tonight to Great Britain. Which, by the way, Great Britain has also beaten both of these teams. They almost beat New Zealand by as much, but not quite, and they almost beat Canada by as much, but not quite. And so. It'll be an exciting game. I think the U.S. should win, but it's going to be close.
You never know.
It's going to be a very tough game.
Everybody wants to win.
So we're encouraging you to watch. We're going to watch. We can't really broadcast it, just because I think watching it, even as much as we've done, maybe breaches.
We'll find out.
Some copyright rules. So that's the fun, but that's just where we are. So that's one reason to root for the USA team. Now, I know you might be watching from another country, and you might be enjoying your team, and we're all for that as well. But today I'm unabashedly pushing the USA team, and it's really because of the couple things that I'm going to show you now.
That's right. Okay.
All right. The next thing is the group, once they got over there, they made a video and they put it out on Twitter and on Facebook, and so anyway, this is the video that they put out. I want to play you. It's Love Story, and I don't know it. Maybe you are hip enough to recognize this.
If you know Taylor Swift, you should know.
It's a Taylor Swift song, we believe. But here's
I looked it up. It really
you're certain it is. Here's their version of the Taylor Swift song that they did. So you're seeing back room. These are in the dorms
in the Olympic Village.
Olympic Village. And so here's a picture of our buddies, 4 of the 12, doing. I've forgotten who's in this. I think it's on the left. I think it's the 2 captains, isn't it?
Put it in the write-up.
You did put it in the write-up?
It's in the write-up, but I don't.
So it's Joe Delagrave in the front on the right.
And Chuck.
Okay, and Chuck is in the back on the left.
Yeah.
And then
Aoki.
And is the other one Chuck? Is the other one Chuck Melton?
I think it is Chuck Melton.
And he's in the front on the left. And then the one on the back on the right, I'm not sure who it is.
Look in the write-up.
But you wrote it up.
Be there. Yes.
You wrote it up. So somebody can look in the write-up and tell us, but we can't look. So anyway, here we go. Let's see how it goes. Oh, it's real quick, so you're gonna watch fast. Here we go.
Is this in my head? I don't know what to think. He knelt to the ground and pulled out a ring and said, "Marry me, Juliet, you'll never have to be alone. I love you and that's all I really know." He talked to your dad, go pick out a white dress. It's a love story, baby, just say yes.
That's pretty good. That's pretty gutsy.
That is too funny. Well, Joe had posted like they had gotten one of their uniforms for that they were given for the Olympics were vests. So they took a picture of all of them with their vests, and he said the like something like the jury's out for when we're going to start the boy band. So then they did this song. I thought was hilarious.
I see. They were sort of laughing at the vests that they wore for the opening ceremony. That is what you're saying.
They didn't wear a vest for the opening ceremony.
Oh, some other vest.
But it was some other vest
that they had.
Yeah, like Ralph Lauren designed them, so we can't mock them, right? They were very nice. Anyway, I think that song is hilarious. You can tell that they're enjoying the whole experience. They're having a ball.
It's nice. They seem loose.
Yeah,
and they published that. You know, and I saw that on NBC. NBC picked that up. So it's not like every Olympic person is putting out those kind of videos.
It's not like the quarterback shuffle or what was that? What it was? A quarterback shuffle?
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. From Chicago.
Yeah, that definitely dates me. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, good. So that's one reason why we love these. Because they are fun-loving and they really do enjoy. They're intense and they play hard, but they really do enjoy the game. But we want to show you the interview now, and so we interviewed Joe. So I want to give you a little setup because I actually didn't edit this video, so you're just going to see it in a pretty raw form. But after the show a year ago or 17 months ago. There was one question that I wanted to ask Joe on the show, but we didn't have time for. We had too many other things to go through. But it's a pretty important question. And basically, the backstory is this. Joe didn't make the team. He's the team captain. He was the team captain, but he didn't make the team in the 2016 Olympics in Rio. And you'll hear people, anytime they talk about Joe Delagrave, like they give an overview, they'll say, he didn't make the team, but he went back to work and, got himself back on the team and he's the captain again. And so I wanted the backstory on that. And I researched Joe and I couldn't find any backstory. Like I couldn't find out like what happened or why it happened. And you can see even from Joe's answer, he's not going to tell you everything. He's going to tell
he's still dealing with it.
Yeah, he's going to tell you some things about what happened, and he's not even sure, I think, exactly why or what, but he learned some lessons from it. So, but I wanted to ask him about that because it was an exclusive, and so we want you to have the exclusive. So I hope you're enough of a fan to enjoy this, but here is the interview that we did with Joe 17 months ago. All right, so hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Hi, this is Cal Clark and Ida. We're here with Joe Delagrave, and he's a 2012 bronze Olympic medalist and is a hopeful for the 2020 team. And we just did a show with Joe, and so we're having some more conversation with him here after the show. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Joe, is in 2016 you weren't able to make the team, and I was just interested in the circumstances surrounding that. What went on there?
Yeah, so in 2013, 14, 15, I was a captain of the team, co-captain of the team. We always have two captains, and in 2014, I was named best 2.0 in the world at World Championships, and then in 2015, my playing time slowly started to drop, and just seemed like the coaches didn't necessarily need me anymore, or didn't see me in the plan. And so in 2016, I made the training squad, which was awesome. And then througезhout the year, the best shape of my life, and worked out 2 days and in the best shape. But I could kind of see the writing on the wall that I probably wasn't going to make the team. And then, a month before, about a month, the 6 to 8 weeks before, we had our final cut, and I didn't get named. And so it was a devastating time, trying to figure out, why and what happened, and a lot of teammates were shocked, and I was kind of shocked, but not kind of shocked, just a bit based on some things that I went down. And
yeah, you're always hopeful, right? And you see the writing on the wall, but you're always hopeful.
And you're always hopeful, and for me, I think to play at an elite level, you need to be confident in yourself, and I was confident that I could help the team out. And for whatever reason, the coaches didn't think so, and I think for me, right away, it was very easy to play that blame game that I talk about, and that victim mentality, and like, hey, this happened to me, and instead of I helped this happen to me. But no matter what, whatever side is correct or right, again, it's like, how do you respond to it? And it took me a little while after that. I was devastated, to say the least. And April and the kids had sacrificed a lot, that quad from 2013 to 16 for us to make it to Rio, and that didn't happen. And it was devastating. As an athlete, our identity gets wrapped up in it so much, and realized, looking back, that I had focused so much on winning gold and focused so much on the end result of Rio, defining who I was and affirming who I was, that I realized, like, wow, not having it crushed me almost just as much as breaking my neck when I was 19 years old. And so kind of picking the pieces back up, it was one of those moments that you look back and realize that you needed to go through in order to grow. It made me a better leader. It made me realize what being a leader was. I remember we had one more camp before Rio that I needed to go to, and I went to that camp, and I didn't have my leadership title anymore, so I wasn't a captain. I wasn't even going to Rio, but I did have to show up and be a good teammate. I had to show up and play my absolute best for the guys that were going. And I think, doing that was just a great test for me to have, and not just for other guys to see, but I think for myself to see that, hey, I need to be that same guy with or without the title, with or without going to Rio, with or without a gold medal or silver medal or bronze medal, whatever it would be. And I think it taught me a lot about the correct way to do leadership, and it took a while to get over. It really did. Those choices of, choosing to be a victor or a victim, trust me, I was choosing a victim quite a bit right after 2016, to be completely honest. But I think it's during those dark down times that we, God shows up and sometimes smacks you in the face when you need it. And there are so many lessons from that time and that period in our lives, and realizing that before, winning a gold medal, I need to make sure that I'm a gold medal husband and a gold medal dad, and famous at home type of thing. And so, like, it's at the time it was the worst, and looking back on it 4 years later, it was ultimately probably the best that ever happened, best thing that ever happened to me in a very unique way.
Well, your teammates really speak so highly of you during that time, that you were a good teammate, that you were supportive, that you were showing up even though you weren't going. Were you faking it a little bit? I mean, were you just doing the right thing? I say faking it, that's sort of a negative way of putting a spin on. Were you being a really solid person and just doing your best, or what was going on there?
Yeah, I think those type of moments can really reveal who you are as a person. And sometimes in those moments, yeah, like I think what you said, faking it, that's the real thing. Because on the inside, you're boiling and you're like, this sucks. and I don't deserve this, and I'm gonna start pointing fingers all over the place and firing them off and blaming everyone. But even though you're kind of like ultimately wrestling inside, and there's a lot of emotions, and there's anger, and there's resentment, and there's, but at the same time, that you have a job to do. When we sign up to be on the national team, we sign up to be on the training squad. We never sign up knowing that we're going to go or knowing that we're going to be chosen. It's you sign up to do a job on the training squad. And so I knew that if I was ever going to come back and I was ever going to help lead the team, that was something that I needed to do, whether I was like doing it for the right reasons or doing it to fake it or doing it, that was it. I needed to show up and be a man. And sometimes showing up and being a man is literally faking it because of what's raging on the inside of you.
Yeah, it gives you some insight into the four who, aren't going to be there this year, right? There's going to.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I think it gives me a little bit of clout when I'm talking to the guys that aren't going to the first couple tournaments or when we eventually are named or not named to the team. I think hey, you still got a job to do, and we're a team of 16 that truly help whoever the 12 go there and be as successful as possible. I think that's the easiest way to put it. But yeah, I think it's.
I have a question, and this is not a leading question. I'm not trying to lead you somewhere with this at all. But who or what helped you? I mean, how did you navigate? Like we all get into those circumstances where the world is just sort of falling in around us from time to time, and how did you navigate? Like, what was it hanging out with your wife and saying, and like crying or being upset, or was it matters of faith? Was there scripture that was important to? I mean, was there a mentor? Did you have somebody that helped you through? Like, how did you get through?
Yeah, there's a couple people. So April, obviously, number one as far as humans go, and being able to kind of walk through that with her. But she had her own emotions as well. Like she wanted to go off on someone too. Like it was as much her right to go to Rio as it was mine, because she sacrificed way more than I did. I got to travel around the world playing a sport with a bunch of guys that are my best friends, where she's at home taking care of our little babies. And so like she had the harder job in it. And so it devastated her just as much. But kind of walking through that with her was interesting and supportive of each other and our emotions. And then when I was counseling at the time and working in a private practice, my mentor there, Dr. Michael, just said something really simple to me, but I didn't want to hear it. And, I'm kind of like, hey, got it out for me, and this stinks, Dr. Michael. And, this wasn't my plan. And I'm feeling like I'm just broken. And he goes, Joe, like, you call yourself a Christian, and Christ literally died on the cross 2,000 years ago for you, so you would not be broken. And like, you can't have it both ways. And so he kind of slapped me in the face with that. And as I thought more and more about it, and I'm like, wow, like how much of my identity was wrapped up in that. It was crazy to think about, because all my affirmation and all my feelings of adequacy and were wrapped up in whether or not I was going to be a Paralympian again, instead of in my relationship with Jesus and in my relationship with my Lord. And I think that was a tough pill to swallow, because I thought I was doing it all the right ways throughout that time, but I was actually tunnel visioned on this gold medal. And it really became an idol for me for those 4 years. And it's a weird thing, because as Olympians and Paralympians, we want to win gold, like that, like we want to win. No one raises their hand up and is like, hey, I want to be a loser. Like, no, that's not a thing. And if it does, I can't help you. I can't relate to that at all. But I do think there's a right way to go about it. And I do think that there's purpose in sport, and being able to be around guys and help mold them and them help mold me, and you walk through it, and it's amazing. We've got some amazing guys on the team, and now girl on the team, and our staff, and I think the culture change from 2016 to now is so different, and it's based out of knowing people and relationships and love, and I'm proud to say that I've been a part of it, and being able to make that shift, and a lot of it was something that I needed, but knowing that, man, if we can build a program like this, when we get to the Paralympics in 2020, winning is going to take care of itself, because we've established such a culture that believes in each other and loves each other and builds each other up, and keeps each other accountable. And so, it's been a big, beautiful thing. But yeah, April and Dr. Michael were extremely helpful with getting me, back on my feet, and realizing, like, okay, here we go, Joe, like this, if you're going to come back to this, we need to move, so, like, no matter what happens in that moment, and I wanted to play the blame game, but as soon as I started looking in the mirror, I'm going, okay, like, let's figure out how I can get better, even though it might not have been my fault, or even though I don't agree with the decision, I can get better from what happened.
Yeah, it's always, a coach is always trying to give some message. So you say, well, I can either spit against the waves, or I can just, like, go with it and figure out how to get on the good side and get things going the right direction again. How long was it till you were back on the team and playing in tournaments?
Yeah, I tried out the very next year, so in 2017, I made the team and was named a captain, and so it was very quick after. But I needed to learn how to kind of bring down those walls that I'd put up, because it's like, I got really crushed and hurt, but I needed to trust teammates and coaches again, and kind of build up those relationships, and come from a clean slate in a way. But and so we've been kind of building it from 2017 all the way to this year.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. That's it's an interesting part of your story, and it was there were a couple of videos that I've seen online that allude to it, but it really begged a lot of questions for me, so I was interested. So thanks for having a little bit longer conversation. I'm sure it's not your favorite thing in the world to talk about in life, but it is life defining, I guess, as you said.
Yeah, like it's I think it's a necessary part of the story, and with most people, that I think they end up relating to it, and they end up getting more out of that than everyone can relate to the time they messed up, or the time that someone did them wrong, or the time that the plan didn't go their way, and then still being able to persevere and succeed through that, and find your way out of that darkness is relatable for pretty much everyone. I know there's some people that are perfect out there, but I'm certainly not one of them.
How about that?
I love that interview, because he was so honest and raw, really, because he was telling us from his heart.
That's why you should be a wheelchair rugby fan.
Yeah, I think that's it.
The cool thing about this is that none of us knew that COVID was going to happen, that the Olympics. So he's talking about, like, culture and dealing with struggles and difficulties, and how he's been since that time rebuilding the culture from a co-captain standpoint. That he's been committed to making sure that they have enough camaraderie to make it through hard times and make it through struggles. And little did he know that they were going to be bigger struggles than he ever imagined. And he really was prepared for a moment that resulted in many ways in that love story video that we,
Yeah.
And so you see the beginning and the ending of it. I'm so pleased to say that we had that conversation, and that's an exclusive video.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Kathy says it's Australia and Japan tonight.
Yeah, it's also right. Australia. It's the two big games. It's the United States against Britain and Australia versus Japan. You'll see them both. I'm not sure which one's first, but both of them are tonight. It wasn't actually our intention to have this show go until the games began at 10:30, and we are running pretty long.
We are.
But anyway, I just wanted you to see that. It's an exclusive here. You won't see that on NBC. You won't see that on any other news outlet. Just Joe gave us the exclusive on that conversation. So thanks for that, Joe. I'm a Joe fan.
Me too.
And
and he kept mentioning April. April is his wife. I know
Right.
he never said
yeah,
my
that
wife
she-
April,
yeah.
but April is his
April
wife. and
helped
she's
him get through
lovely
it.
human
So that's what
being
he's
as
meaning.
well.
And apparently, she's got a little feist in her.
Well, of course she
That
does.
she was willing to take somebody out. Another angle that's interesting about this, he talked about now they had a woman on the team.
Right.
And there is a woman on the team, but she's an alternate. So she's actually not on the 12 people that are in. And her name is Liz Dunn, and she's from the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah, and she's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting because one of the rules is you have both men and women can play in wheelchair rugby, but a woman gets a half point taken off of her classification, so you actually get a little more firepower. So both Japan and Britain have women. Although the British woman, she was a wheelchair basketball player. She doesn't really. I've never seen her play. She's on the bench, so she must play some point. But I've never seen her play. The woman from Japan plays, and since she started playing, and they started taking advantage of her ability and her advantage because she gets that half point off. That marks when they became a international
Right.
strong team. So anyway, so there are 4 players: Ernie Chun, Jake Daly, Liz Dunn, Montrezl Hutcherson, who are right in Joe's place, and so he knows their story, and so it does make him a better team captain. And I think he said that. I'm not sure if I cut the interview a little bit early. I don't remember him saying it in what we just watched, but
I think that's later on.
yeah. But he, I mentioned to him, well, now you know how it feels to be cut, and he said, yeah, exactly. It gives me credibility in those kind of situations. And so there's 4 players that are not in Tokyo that fall right into that, and one of them our own Liz Dunn, who we want over there next. Anyway, that's sort of the bulk of the show. We want to run into our normal.
Back to regularly scheduled
regular
programming.
schedule. So we mentioned that Chuck Aoki was the flag bearer, one of the 2. So I encourage Ida to sort of skip her saying of the week this week.
Well, I saw this and on Twitter, and I thought it was just perfect, and we should include it in the show. So I think it's a wonderful saying of the week. And this saying of the week, the author is Chuck Aoki. And he says, as a result of being the flag bearer, tonight was a night I'll never forget. Leading Team USA out with M. Stockwell 01 is one of the greatest honors of my life. And he goes on to say, this is for all the kids with disabilities who think they'll never fit in because they're different. You belong, you matter, and you can achieve your dreams. So thank you, Chuck, for that. That's very strong. I love it.
Pretty cool that these guys get to represent and really make it. There really are children with disabilities watching and thinking,
Absolutely.
I could be famous now too.
And maybe more this year than ever, since they're on primetime TV and we're able to find them. So
yeah, that's great. So thanks, Chuck, for those words. Joke of the week: Sue Ritchie, who's her birthday.
It's her birthday, yeah.
She was drafted.
No, she jumped up and down and volunteered.
Oh, she wanted to do it.
No, we just dragged her in.
Here's Sue's joke.
Oh.
Wheelchair oriented, since we're on a wheelchair topic.
Oh,
Sue said, "I've got a wheelchair joke for you."
okay.
Here
Let's
it
hear it,
is.
Sue.
What does a cannibal call a wheelchair user? What does a cannibal call a wheelchair
I'm
user?
afraid to ask. What does a cannibal call a wheelchair user?
They call it. Oops, I clicked the wrong button.
No.
Meals on wheels. Meals
I
on
think-
wheels.
Thank you, Sue. Hopefully she's not watching. Meals on Wheels.
Oh my!
Thank you for that. That's really bad. I think we should probably retire that one.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Never again. Anything that you have that you want to put in there before we?
We have a couple more birthdays. I could just throw those out there while other people are.
Oh, Kathy's mentioning there's a video on Joe's Facebook
Oh yeah.
page where he told him that he was carrying the flag, and we had too much content tonight,
Right.
but yeah, go look at that. That's a very touching moment that Joe got to be a part of that process too.
Very proud
So
of
it's
him.
on Joe Delagrave. If you go to Facebook and you search for Joe Delagrave, you'll find his Facebook page.
Well, we have other people. Kathy knew that joke, which doesn't surprise me. And Mary Lou just says, "Oh my." So yeah. Anyway, other birthdays. Jackie Partridge is on the 27th. Kim Booth, Tom's wife Kim, is on the 28th. Teresa Wayne is on the 29th. Andrea O'Donnell on the 29th. And Deb Daugherty on the 1st of September.
Happy
So
birthday.
happy birthday, everybody.
Yeah, happy
Yeah.
birthday. I think we should bring the show to a quick close. What do you
Yeah.
have? What else do you have that we can?
You know, I have those crazy holidays.
Yeah,
which-
well, we have to know what
Well-
holiday.
Well, this week is Be Kind to Humankind Week. I think that's a good
For
one.
me, it's Send Your Kids to College Week.
It is Send Your Kids to College Week. Today is National Dog Day.
Oh, how about that?
So, you know, Sailor chimed in, and
This
we all
is
love our
officially
dogs.
the dog days of summer.
No, okay. It's really about dogs, Calvin.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, that's what I have. I'm not gonna open myself up to more.
Thanks. Ivy.
You're welcome.
Hey, before we go, I want to play Joe Delagrave's video.
Oh yeah.
We made this video. We like to play it from time to time. So this is Joe doing lots of hits and showing
I
off.
love this one. Okay,
So
great.
let's flip over to Joe.
I love that video.
I just had this vision in my mind that everybody might have to see that video one more time, and I update it with all the Olympic 2020
Oh.
shots, and so have some, because there's a couple shots that aren't just Joe.
Right.
And now there's a couple more shots of Joe hammering people that we could put in there and get him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I might just update that.
Sounds good to me.
Why are you watching like 10 minutes ago?
I have no idea. That's my computer's behind. So I'm doing my best, but especially with this, I don't know why my computer's so far. So yeah, so Joel says a great show, and Kathy says hitting the floor makes me cringe. Owie. They don't mess around. They don't call it murder ball.
I worry about their shoulders because they go down and they always catch themselves on their shoulders, right? And I was thinking about that. They have all the weight of the wheelchair coming in behind them, and they have to do it or they're going to smash their heads.
Right. So they can.
And so they put their shoulder down. They have to. So I bet they do a lot of working out of that, but you don't see them. Not many of them have shoulder cuffs or they have these arm cuffs for their elbows.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me worry.
We should ask him about that next time.
Well, anyway, thanks for coming by the show, the long show. And you stay in your wheelchair and watch them knock each other out of their wheelchair. You can live vicariously through the wheelchair rugby without doing it yourself. You don't have to worry about your own bumps and bruises. So watch the show. I do believe at 10:30 tonight Eastern time you can watch England, and then this is Thursday. So then there's a preliminary game tomorrow.
What time's that one?
I think they all are at in that 10:30. I think NBC is showing it then. The Sunday one might be different. The Sunday one might be at a different time. But the Sunday is the final. So let me think about this. So they've got a quarterfinal. They play that tomorrow, and then they win that. Then that determines who goes into the gold match, who goes into the silver match, I believe. Or maybe I don't know if they play a round robin. I don't know exactly how the post preliminaries work.
Okay, well.
But I'm pretty sure there is a game tomorrow and a game on Sunday.
By the time we make next Paralympics, we'll have this down to a fine science.
The game we really want to try for. It seems like, I mean, the U.S. is in the medal game, right? The semifinals. So they have to win that to get onto the podium, and if they can win a couple, they'll be rolling along. So lots of fun. Thanks for coming by tonight, and I think that's our show for the week.
Okay, we'll be back next week.
Yeah. Thank you for stopping by. A little bit of a different show. We'll be back with more of a normal show next week, and we really appreciate you being part of it every week. I'm uniquely the same. You're uniquely the same. Together, we can change the world.
Bye now. See you next time.
See you soon.